Let's talk about ADHD and shame. Shame is a very isolating experience. It's so uncomfortable talking about it, and I hope with this video some of you who would recognize yourselves in those situations will feel some reassurance. My name is Evie. I make videos about ADHD, childhood trauma, mental well-being in general. I have psychology background, 5 years of academia just for that, then 3 years of coaching experience, and I'm also diagnosed with ADHD. So in this video, I try to bring my personal knowledge or general book knowledge, and at the end, I hope I'm creating something that is helpful. Do you ever feel like your hyperactivity and impulsivity seem to take a life of their own? As if there is this invisible spotlight highlighting the too much moments. When I'm hyperactive, everything feels incredible. I'm capable of everything, and any pain and problem I have seem more manageable. Hyperactivity is the highlight of my ADHD. Ironically though, usually those are also the moments that make me feel so embarrassed once the hyperactivity is gone, and instead comes the low dopamine state. And when the inevitable low happens, I look at my hyperactive moments as an observant, as if I'm a different person, and this person seems so delusional, unreal, and embarrassing, and I hope nobody has noticed her. Although that's impossible because I'm all over the place when I'm hyper. And indeed, somehow my low state seems like the real sober version of me, and the hyperactive one is this crazy one, uncontrolled, all over the place. Too much. It's really all about the lack of balance. I'm either 0 or 100, and I can achieve balance sometimes, but unless I regulate myself constantly, I always slip out of it and go into extremes. And that's okay, because if anything I have learned from my psychology education is that ADHD is neurological, and you cannot rewire your brain just on a good motivational speech or something. You can make improvements thanks to neuroplasticity, but it does take time to change your behavioral patterns, and nevertheless, the ADHD will remain to an extent. But yes, it is very challenging to stay productive and highly functioning at your 100 hyperactive mode without going overboard. And one day maybe I'm gonna make a video on how to control your hyperactivity, but I'm not there yet. One time, after a passionate, fast-paced conversation with someone I really cared about, he turned out and told me, "You just delivered a verbal diarrhea." And yes, it is just a figure of speech, and he didn't mean it in an insulting way, I guess, but it did hurt. It just hit right in the center, because this is something I'm so self-conscious about. When I care about a topic, in my excitement, my words get so tangled up, spilling out in a way that feels chaotic even to me. If it's a topic I care about, I so badly want the other person to understand every angle of this topic. But keeping it cohesive, prioritizing my words and the story, and not getting off topic, that's a different thing. It's really overwhelming, especially when you add the pressure of being on stage, which is how I feel when somebody's looking at me when I'm talking to a camera. No problem at all. But put a cameraman behind this camera, I could never do this. It's not gonna be the same. It's gonna take me 5 times longer, because I cannot even keep an eye contact with people when I'm talking, especially if I really care about the topic. And again, one day I wish I could give you a list of tips and tricks on how to deal with this. That day hasn't come yet either. Clumsiness. Oof. The number of things I have broken, spilled, times I fell in public, I have embarrassed myself in public so much. Either I knock out something, or I spill something, or I make too much noise and I draw too much attention. I don't want anybody to see me when I'm in a room. Impossible. And every single time when it happens, no matter how many times it had happened before, it feels new and it feels as embarrassing as always. You cannot get used to it. It's horrible. I hate myself sometimes in public. Maybe that's why I'm actually so introverted recently. Not that's just my personality, but clumsiness and shame and ADHD are besties. So if the hyperactive crazy Evie and the verbal overload together make me feel sometimes that I am too much, the clumsiness makes me feel like even my body is too much. Moral of the story of all this is that although I just gave you like 3 examples, those things can happen in so many different situations that at the end, the chances of you feeling shame are so high. There's so many ways how any of this can happen on a regular basis. And I'm not even talking about the whole productivity thing, because to be honest, I have systems and I live on schedule, on to-do lists. I do color grading, I use calendar religiously. Like, I have mastered this. That's why I make videos about it. But when it comes to those things I just discussed now, I'm failing still a lot. And I just want you to know that if you're seeing perfect things on the internet, they're either well designed or well rehearsed, or maybe the person just had a good day. But consistent perfection, that's not real. And from my own reflection on how harmful it is to self-shame yourself all the time, you cannot criticize yourself into better concentration, more focus, or stabilizing your dopamine level so that you're never hyped up or never low. And you cannot criticize yourself into behaving the way you wish you were. I may not have the perfect solution, but I know that beating yourself up, it doesn't help. And here's your takeaway message. If you find balance between forgiving yourself and still striving to do your best, that is probably the best thing you can give to yourself. There is some middle ground between resigning to it is what it is, which really feels like giving up, and constantly judging yourself every time when you didn't measure up. For people with ADHD, balance is a challenge. We tend to thrive on extremes, but trying to reach the balance, just the effort itself, is worth it. Recognize that some days will be better than others, and seek people and spaces that allow you to be who you are without feeling ashamed. And since we're on the topics of Evie's weaknesses, I'm gonna leave a link to 3 mistakes that I used to make that were absolutely not helping my ADHD brain. Watch it, it may actually really be helpful to you. Thank you for watching, guys, and just do your best on most days and try to enjoy the journey. It is all temporary after all. See you next time.